Hey everybody, what's it, Fox Gaming here. So I've got an updated healer build for TU10.1. I know healers aren't used a great deal at the moment because they typically offered a lot of healing but not a great deal more other than a marginal buff from empathic resolve. My new healer build completely puts all that to bed. It's fantastic. It offers so many buffs. I don't even want to call this a healer build. I want to call it a support build because healing is only half of what you're going to be doing, and this fits into many different things like the raid. You might need to change your skills a little bit. Legendary, certainly. I recently posted my 2 skill builds for legendary, and I've actually started playing this more as instead of the Artificer hive skill damage build. I've been using this instead, but both are just as viable. So let me explain why this build has been massively improved since the buffs that TU10.1 has brought on. First of all, the chem launcher, the reinforcer. So this received an 11% buff to its heal over time as well as more ammo. So if you look on the right hand side there, you'll see the stats. At skill tier 6 we have 9 in the mag with the 1+ extra ammo mod. Now you'll notice that the cloud duration and the ally repair there, well, the ally repair in particular might seem low. Don't worry about that. It's only because I basically put enough repair skills to hit 1,000,000, and then everything else, like my mods for example, and what I've rolled onto my pieces, have either put skill duration or just simply skill haste to get my charges back faster. The reason for that is that this chem launcher is the only heal that you'll need in conjunction with the automatic heal from Future Initiative, the gear set that I'm wearing. And if you think about it, most people will be running armor similar to what you can see on my build right now, about 700 to 900k. Sometimes people run a single blue on a skill build if they've got technician, or Sawyer's knee pads on a rifle build. So maybe 900 to 1,000,000 absolute maximum. This does that 1,000,000 as a single burst heal, and the reason that the chem launcher is the best heal in the game, in my opinion, is it also includes a repair over time, which is what was buffed. This can be further buffed via skill duration. So if you notice there it says cloud duration 9 seconds. The more duration mods and duration you have on your gear set that you have, the longer that is, and as a result the more heal over time. So it's healing just over 200k per tick, which I think is per second, but of course you still get that initial 1,000,000. So I now run this as my only healing skill to free up a couple of skill choices here, and this part can be rotated around. We'll come to why I use this in just a second there. Let's go through the build first. So to start with, we're using Technician. The reason for that is we do want to be including the Artificer hive most of the time here, but it does also offer some nice buffs like the EMP grenade, for example, and you get the skill healing on the build as well. You can change between skill damage and skill healing. I've actually left mine on skill damage because honestly, I promise you this build heals enough with just the chem launcher as the only healing skill. Like, you have my word on that. So we're using Future Initiative. Now, the 2-piece gives us 30% repair skills, which is fantastic. It is a healer build after all. The 3-piece gives us 15% skill haste and 30% skill duration, which is really important. And the 4th piece gives us 2 different talents. The first part is increases you and your allies' total weapon damage and skill damage by 15% when at full armor. This is an additive bonus that does stack with another additive bonus, empathic resolve, that's also 15%. Why is my guy not sprinting? So just to quickly show you when that's active, and this will be for everybody in your team. You'll notice the little blue diamond, I guess you could call that. I'm not even sure what that's supposed to be. But yeah, and the moment you take damage, that disappears. And then if I heal up again. There we go. And you can see empathic resolve was proc there, as well as my Artificer, which has self-buffed that heal. That doesn't happen all the time, but that's a nice little bonus. So yeah, that's the 4-piece there, but you also get, and this is what works really well with the Artificer, and I only discovered this yesterday, or the day before possibly, when you repair an ally, you and all allies within 5 meters of you are also repaired for 60% of that amount. So for example, if there's me and 2 other dudes sat within 5 meters just here, and you'll know because the green line connects you, and there's a guy that's over here, or possibly even a skill, because of course the chem launcher can repair skills. Look at that radius, man, that's huge. I think they buffed that as well, actually. When you pop that, everybody that's next to you will get 60% of that instant and heal over time. So all of it, they'll get. And you haven't had to heal these guys manually at all. So this works really well with the Artificer, because if you go into this, if you look on the right hand side there, you'll see it says buff amount 70%. This is fantastic. That's 70% because I'm at skill tier 6. So, and this is where I said this is more of a support than a healer build. First things first, I am buffing all of my ally skills by 70%. That's damage, by the way. You'll probably know this from my previous legendary skill build video. So this is an amazing skill to run. The hives have had multiple buffs, and this is all hive variants, including the healing hive, so it's still very good. Well, better than ever, in fact. But in my opinion, that is overhealing. You don't need to be running 2 heals anymore. 100% you don't. But the more important thing here for future initiative is the skill repair. You'll notice this is at 166.1%. That basically fully heals up, well, technically more than fully heals up any skill within range. So if we have a look at, say, the turret, which is the most popular skill at the moment, you see it's got 5.6 million HP on a skill build. So if that takes half of its health down and your Artificer heals that up, so like, let's just say maybe 3 million as an example, or 2 or whatever, that is instantly transferred to your teammates that are in range. 60% of it is at least anyway. So 60% of several million is plenty. A great example of this is in Legendary DUA, Legendary District Union Arena. Since they closed off the out of bounds area, most people now will go over that little bridge to where the boss is, open the gate to start the boss encounter, immediately turn left into the little tent. If you, all 4 of you, sit in there, all of you are in range of your healer within that 5 meter range. So let's say you're running skill builds and 3 people throw their turrets just outside that little room on the fence, and you throw your Artificer. You are massively buffing your team's damage potential, far more than the damage you've lost by not being a damage dealer yourself. It's substantial. But not only that, you're automatically healing your team. When we ran that last night, I did not drop a single chem launcher in that room. I didn't need to, because the moment any of our skills took any damage, the Artificer healed them, and that healing was transferred via future initiative to my team. So this hive is fantastic, and you know, you're using healing here, but you're getting the secondary heal from the future initiative, which replaces the hive, the restorer hive, and instead you can use the Artificer. I'm still using Empathic Resolve because this is an additive bonus, as I previously mentioned, 15% when you're at skill tier 6 to your entire team, and only 7% for yourself, admittedly. So that's buffing their skill and or weapon damage, and then you've got the 15% from the future initiative. Most of these are spec'd into repair skills, but as I said before, I hit enough repair skills to get 1 million here, and then the rest I put into haste. So if you notice here, max repair skills at 17, but I've put a skill haste mod here and not a repair skill mod. On this piece I've actually rolled it to skill haste and put a skill haste mod, and on this piece it's still rolled to repair skills, but I've put a skill duration mod. So I like to have that 2 skill haste and 1 duration mod because I feel that's the sweet spot, and I would encourage that you do the same. You may notice that I'm running the backpack, and a few people are thinking, well, come on, what's that? I've not done the raid yet. This is supposed to be a build to help me get into that. And this backpack is only achieved from completing the raid. And that's absolutely right. You don't need to run this. The only reason that I'm running it, yes, it increases ground control from 60 to 120%. To be fair, you don't even need that with this build. It's good. And it means that you don't have to run the chest, so you can run Empathic Resolve to get the double buff. But the only reason I've done that is I wanted the 4-piece, but I needed to include Empathic Resolve and BTSU. BTSU also got a pretty big buff in TU10. What they now do, as well as granting overcharge to your entire team, as long as you're at skill tier 6, just bear that rework in mind, which of course we are, they now give 15% hive skill haste per skill tier. So you get the charges back from any of the hive variants super fast. And the hives themselves, they've had a skill haste buff, they've had a duration buff, they now last for 180 seconds, up from 50 seconds, that's incredible. They now have a drone speed buff, so the drones that fly out from the hive into a player or skill are significantly faster, and they've had a radius buff as well. The other advantage of running Technician is you can increase the duration even further, and the radius even further. So you see where this is all starting to fit together to make a really, really strong build, and the strongest healer build that I've seen yet. If you don't have the backpack, that's absolutely fine. What you want to do is replace the BTSU gloves with the future initiative, so you still get the 4-piece, and then your backpack, you actually have a choice here. I like that I can overcharge, particularly if we have a skill build team, which are very, very popular in Legendary. If you matchmake for Legendary content, I can pretty much guarantee that 9.5 times out of 10 they'll just be skill builders, and that's fine. They're really powerful at the moment. So overcharge, yes, it's good, but you could just run a Costas as a backpack, because that actually includes repair skills and status effects, and then have the future initiative gloves here, so you're still getting the 4-piece. I would keep the Empathic Resolve, and I would have it as Murakami over Alps, because skill duration is more important, as the healing of this build is through the roof. You don't need to spec that much into repair skills. So stick with the Murakami for your chest, stick with Empathic Resolve, and then if you can have the backpack, run BTSU. If you can't, run your Future Initiative gloves, and then the backpack you could either run a second Murakami or Alps with Safeguard, with Overwatch. Wait, is it Overwatch or Overclock? No, Overclock, the one that buffs your team around your hive. Even Opportunistic, if you want to run the designated hitter for the 40% skill repair on headshots, just run Opportunistic, and then you're buffing your team even further by applying a 10% damage debuff or resistance debuff. There's so many ways that you can build this, but the most important parts are the 4-piece Future Initiative, the Empathic Resolve Murakami chest, and Technician in conjunction with the Artificer hive. So that's fantastic. That's how the build basically works for skill healing. For the weapons, same as they've always been for healing. Just use a Reformation weapon, whatever you can most comfortably hit headshots with, and ideally the Sweet Dreams to get the instant kill on any purple and blues. That's really powerful. So yeah, this is how you want to run it when you're running with skill builders. But you may be thinking, well, most of my team run M1A builds or Pestilence builds or whatever else. Not a problem. You can keep everything identical. However, you want to consider you'll definitely want to switch to the booster hive, and you may want to consider binning off the overcharge. This is really strong for yourself as well, by the way, but you could just run a Costas here to overcharge yourself, or just run Opportunistic or Overclock to buff your team more. I would say if your team are weapon users as opposed to skill users, you may want to consider Overclock and then have the bin off the BTSU, because you don't want to overcharge skills that they're not using. Yeah, so maybe go for an Overclock here to improve their reload speed and their skill cooldowns for like their shields and their res hives and so on. But again, BTSU is fine. If they're running res hives, you're going to instantly refresh them. So it's totally flexible, this build, as long as you've got the 4 Future Initiative. The reason that you want to run the booster hive again over the double heals, the restorer hive, is that it now includes a significant weapon handling and hazard protection buff. So the main problem for people running weapon builds as opposed to skill builds is they typically have glass cannon, and because it's not their skills pulling the aggro, it is themselves, they're going to draw a lot more heat. Now your healing is still plenty. What you want to do is give them that hazard protection, because fire grenades will 100% kill a glass cannon user. I'm talking from a lot of experience here. What this build now does is this hive, since they buffed it is now a 60% buff amount. Now they remove weapon damage, however, you're giving them 60% weapon handling. If you're not familiar with my braced pestilence build, that includes 45% from the chest and 10% from gunner. That's 55, and that turns pestilence into an absolute laser that reloads in less than a second. This is 60%. It's even higher than that build. So your guys with their M1As, with their Eagle Bearers, with their Pestilence, with their, they can run Unhinged if they really want, or Strained, or anything at all, because their reloads are going to be instant, and they're going to be not immune to hazard, but, and they don't mention it in the text here, when a booster stimulant hits a player, it cleanses all status effects every single time. So you're not only clearing their status effects, which plays into that support healer role, but you're then making them 60% resistant to them pretty much indefinitely. You're allowing their weapons to be stable, accurate, and reload in a fraction of a second. So the build is still healing your team, but supporting the weapon users as well. So all you really need to do with this is to just switch out the Artificer to the booster depending on the team that you're with. Make sure your team know to be very close to you, and their skills need to be grouped up together for the Artificer, because ultimately, yes, the Chem Launcher is now powerful enough to heal them without the use of Future, but the Future heal is pretty substantial and really useful. So that's how I run the build there. Screenshot that if you want to. I just wanted to make you aware that it is flexible. You don't need BTSU in the backpack. This is the strongest version of the build, in my opinion, but you don't need to run it this way. You can run a Costas, Overclock, Safeguard, Opportunistic is a good choice. Just try and keep that Sweet Dreams and Reformation on your gun. Try and use Technician where possible so you can switch on and off of the Artificer Hive mid-mission if needed. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. With all these buffs to hives and the Chem Launcher, to the point where we no longer need to run the double heals, healers, or I'm going to call them support agents now because I don't like to call them a healers. The point of this is they now do so much more, and that you're going to be so much more valuable to your team by giving them all of these weapon and skill buffs. It's really strong. Try this in Legendary with 3 skill builders or 3 weapon users, and let me know what you think in the comments. Whilst we're here, I just want to thank and appreciate you all for the continued support of the channel. We're really starting to take off now, so I really do appreciate that. Don't forget our clan is open, the final boss search us on Xbox if you do want to join. And we've been hitting conflict really hard, legendary hard. We're about to start going through the raid again, and we've got some experienced raiders here. Just drop me a message either on within the YouTube comments or on Xbox directly, and I'll be more than happy to get you in. We'll have a little chat and see what kind of content you're interested in running. So thank you very much for watching this video to the end, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.